Hey, what's up, family? Welcome to the latest edition of the Real Estate Podcast. We have an exciting show for you today. I'm Melda Dickens, your co-host, along with
Al Davis.
We have a great show for you today. We first want to give a shout out to everybody, our Ham Radio family. We want to give a shout out to King Richard Good, the visionary and the founder, our technician, our producer, DJ on the wheels of steel, everything. Mr. King Richard of Ham Radio. And to all of our real estate podcast family, we thank you for tuning in today. We have a great show for you today. A great guest, and I'm gonna turn it over to Al to introduce our guest today. Man, we're excited about our guest today.
Yeah, I'm excited for sure. But don't forget, we're on YouTube E-State Podcast. Go and like and subscribe. Today, the guest today, the reason I'm so excited about the guest today, I've been knowing him more than 10 years. And I got people that I respect, and I got people I look up to. I might respect some people, I might not look up to them. They might not be on my level or something, whatever. And I got people I look up to, but I might not have as much respect. But this person we have today, I got a lot of respect for him, and I look up to him. So he hit both of the genres. So it's my man, Pete Pocovic, and I'm looking forward to introducing him today and letting you all know his story and how you could benefit from real estate and how you could come up in real estate. So how you doing today, Peter?
I am well, thank you.
Now I've been knowing you for a while, man. So like you my man, like I know you. So, but this is what we want everybody to know. You right now, how many properties do you think you have right now? Units, as far as units.
I downsized from quantity to quality. I probably have 120 or 130 units with not much mortgages on them.
And then at your peak, how many units did you think you had?
Most I ever had by myself with no partners was 229 units.
And with partners, if you include without partners and with partners, how many?
Oh, at that point, between management and everything, I was affiliated with over 500 properties at one time.
It's a lot of freaking units, man. So I want to talk a little bit about it. Mel probably gonna have some questions. I want to talk about how you got to that point, and I want everybody to understand that even if you're not in real estate right now, don't be discouraged, because I know people, I've been doing it for 20 years, and I know people who basically started from scratch, had setbacks, and still was able to get back in and accumulate properties and units to the point where they can become very successful. So we're gonna be talking to Peter a little bit about that today, see where he came from, what setbacks he had, and how he built his thing back up, and you can do the same. But I'm gonna start off with any questions that Melda may have.
First, Pete, man, just how you got started, man?
I got started as a kid, I always wanted to be a plumber, and I became one. Okay. I started with working on properties as a hired contractor with plumbing and stuff. Then my dad owned a house. He was ready to buy something else. And I told him, let me take the lead on it. So I was 17 years old. I had him buy the neighbor's house, and I fixed it with all of my friends. Fixed that, rented it all up, and even then, they told me I ruined the neighborhood because I started putting Section 8 tenants in them, where they kind of really, at that time, they weren't, you know what I mean? Right. I grew up in the Bronx, by the way, so I didn't, it's not here, so it wasn't, but I was always chasing guaranteed money instead of chasing people for their money. So 2 years later, that property got a lot of value to it from it being rented. So my dad refinanced it and gave me my share, and I went and bought my own house. So I bought my first three-family house. Bought my first three-family house in Morris Park in the Bronx when I was 19 years old, and I capitalized from that. I'm just gonna shut it down. Sorry. I refinanced that and kept going on. I built a little portfolio in New York. Then I ran into a little bit of a problem. I ended up getting arrested for a crime I committed, and I ended up going to jail for over 4 years, almost 5 years. Came home, picked up where I left off with the real estate, with the working, with the plumbing, but I kind of added management and maintenance to my portfolio. So I was managing properties, and I started buying more with money people, partners who had money, and I took the lead on doing the work. Some we'd sell, some we'd keep. And that was working out really well until I made another boo-boo.
Okay.
and I ended up getting arrested again and doing another stint in federal prison, which during that stint I ended up losing some of my properties, but I still had a couple hidden away. So I had a few dollars left over and ended up selling that, and I wanted to get out of New York because it was too easy for me to get caught up in New York.
Yeah.
So I looked at places where to go. I moved to Florida for about 3 months. I didn't like Florida. I liked the seasons, changes of seasons, and all of that.
Yeah,
so I had a partner.
A lot of folks retiring in Florida.
I had a partner here who was actually who I bidded with in a federal institution.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say his name just in case, but you know him
know,
anyway.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
he ended up telling me he's buying properties here. Back then, this was in '04. He's buying unlimited properties for 10,000 thereabouts. So I came over here, and I probably did between 12 to 1,400 properties in the last 18 years I've been here.
In Baltimore, since you've been
In Baltimore.
Okay.
In Baltimore, and I've managed as much as 500 properties between what I owned and what I managed at times. You know.
Okay. So you kind of had a natural knack for real estate in a way. In a sense, it seems like you I guess you had some gifts with your hands. As a teenager, you had some skill set in terms of being able to do some work yourself, and it seems like it just kind of came to flow. At least that's what you're saying to me.
Absolutely. I mean, I was always very handy, but it's kind of funny that I'm Albanian, and in New York, a huge percentage of the multifamily, other than Manhattan, is owned by Albanians.
Wow.
So it's like, I don't want to like stereotype you like Chinese people have Chinese food, or,
Right.
you know what I mean? Certain people own liquor stores, but Albanians do real estate.
Okay.
You know, and it's there, and in like Chicago, Detroit, where we got a lot of like our people, so to speak, even though I'm from here, you know, but so it's kind of you follow that, and you see they made out all right, and I did all right for myself too, you know.
Wow. So one of the things kind of interested me, Pete. You said you started out in New York.
Yeah.
And then you obviously, for some personal reasons, you decided to relocate. You said Florida and then Baltimore.
Right.
What's some differences in terms of real estate, you know, like rentals or multi-units, like from a place like New York to Baltimore?
Well, I mean, it's the return.
Okay.
I'm a numbers guy. I chase numbers. Baltimore has got one of the best returns literally in the country.
Wow.
You know, like you go buy, giving you an example, you buy a property in New York, so it costs you $1 million. If you're getting $6,000 rent, you know, between like 2 units or even $7,000 rent, with the taxes and everything else, you're making more money, because you're making more money over there per like one house, but on the numbers wise, you're making nowhere near what you're making in Baltimore. You know, real estate and investment is the same thing in every city or state in this country. You know, you buy a property, you look at the return of your numbers. You know, the interest rate is basically the same thing throughout the country. So you find a place. It was here. You know, you get a property back when I was started here. You're into a property 50 grand. You're getting 1,000 rent. It was like unheard of.
Right.
You're looking at it today. You could be in a property between 100, depends where you want to be, between 100 and 150,000, and you're getting $1,500 rent. When you start doing your math of what your mortgage is, what your taxes are, and what your return is, I mean, it's unbeatable anywhere in this country. You know, I know Atlanta was huge, but that got burned out. So there's really, you remember the Atlanta time where everybody was flocking there, but I think they burned it out in about 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying really Baltimore location was about the dollars, economics. It wasn't necessarily anything about culture, or basically it's about the dollars, right?
The return on
It's
your
all about the Benjamins.
It's about the business, all right.
So,
I'll give you an example. The house on St. Anne, I got it for 17. I only put 9 down on it. I put 50,000 worth of work in it, and I sold it for 124,000. So where else you gonna take 9,000 out your pocket and quadruple your money? And you can do a rehab in 90 days. Pete can do a rehab in 30, 45, but I can do it in probably 90 days.
right. Remember the first deal we did?
The apartment building. How many units was that?
31.
Yeah, we did 31. How much money we fake on that deal?
Well,
And it's still sitting there empty.
Hey, if we can sit here and we're gonna tell a story, if we're gonna tell a little funny, I was gonna say funny ass story, but we're gonna tell a funny story. So we're in Baltimore Real Estate Association, like one of those investments,
Yeah,
Capital
one of those
RIA, that's what it
investments,
was actually. So he's over there telling a story to some investors about a deal that he did. So he's telling a group of people, but he didn't see me walk in.
Right.
So I sat behind him and he's saying, well, he just did a deal. He sold a 31 unit building and he just made 50,000 that quick.
Right.
So I was behind him. I said, why don't you tell him who you sold that deal to? He didn't tell. He said, oh shit. He said, yeah. He's like, oh
I
shit.
sold it to
It's
him
me.
right behind me.
I said, did you tell him how much I made off of the deal? And he was like, no, what did you make? I made the same deal he sold me. I literally sold it the next day. I made 115 grand on it.
So I made 50. Then I sold to him, made
But-
50, and he sold it, made 150.
But 115.
115.
Yeah. Then it was funny because the guys didn't do anything with it. The building burned. I bought it back from the guy, and I made another 65 from it.
Damn.
So sometimes you just luck out, and then it will end up at an auction, and those brothers bought it, Benjamin and whatever.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
But it's still. I drove by there today. It's still vacant.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're not. They right now that group is in trouble because you know what?
Let's see
You
if we
gotta
can get it
stay.
back.
Yeah.
So,
well, we will.
so Pete, man, it seems like you got a lot of experience, right? One of the things that's interesting to me, I'm getting into it. I'm doing some more commercial development stuff, and so some of the units and the flips and rehabs and stuff that Al's been teaching me kind of came through his school. If folks are starting out, man, what advice or how would you point somebody in the right direction? Not saying that you're like a person who's going to mentor, but like, what would you say? Like, if you had a nephew?
I mean, it
Yeah.
depends. It depends. It depends. How much? If you got money, you start.
I don't have no money.
You got no money.
I got a job. I mean, I got a decent job, but hey, I don't have an extra $50K to just say, hey, I'm gonna buy some real estate.
Well, if you got good credit is one way.
Okay.
If you got good credit, there's a lot of lenders out here. People don't understand the value of a hard money lender. Everybody thinks like, oh, it's a hard money lender. He's gonna crack me in the head. He is, but it's not gonna affect your bottom line. So who cares?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you use somebody else's money. If you got good credit, within that or right after that 6th month is up, because banks are looking for that. Most banks are looking for that 6-month seasoning.
Seasoning, right.
So you end up refinancing a building, or a property or building or house or whatever it is, within 6 months. You're gonna be in that deal if you're making, granted, if you're making $200 a month with not a dime into the property, or $500-600 a month. Depends how much you want to invest to raise your bottom line. But there's money to be made out there, and it's funny because I got one guy involved. I got 2 little stories like that. I got one guy involved that we were just speaking to him I was speaking about him before we sat down. A guy, Torrance. I sold him his first house, and he made some money. Do you know that brother turned and sold his BMW so he could have another down payment for another house?
Smart.
That's how much he saw. Absolutely. I know a few people that sold cars, you know what I mean, and downsized their cars because all the money they had it in bling bling, or they had it in vehicles, sold, downsized on their properties, and they say, hey, we want to break into this business. And I'm the type of person that I'll hold somebody's hand if they're interested, but I'll be damned if I'm the one who's doing the work for them while they're sitting earning money elsewhere.
Right.
I'll walk people through it. I mean, this is a business as well. You know, I have no interest in, like, you know what I mean, like getting back, you know, into what I was doing before. I would do work and like sell to my investors, and this group took that over. No, right now I'm just building portfolios for myself, and I'm you know, turning it down a little bit, trying to get a little rest. I've been at this game for a long time, even though people would say when I was locked up I had enough rest. Not enough.
No. In this game, it's hard to get rest. People don't understand. When I don't answer my phone a lot, people get on me about that, but it just drains you and it drains you.
Mm-hmm.
But it, like, Peter probably the closest person to me. That's why I relate to him so good, because he understands what I'm doing. Because he's on a larger level than me, but he understands how much work going into stuff, how much energy and how much stress it causes. So that's why I can talk to him easy, and he understands where I'm coming from. Plus, he's trustworthy. Like I can totally trust people, whatever. But it do weigh you down.
So you know, you guys definitely have more experience than me. The question I have is, how would you, if you were starting over today, right? If you were just getting in, and like if you had somebody like you, right, telling you 10 years ago, 15 years ago when you got started,
right,
the pitfalls or whatever you've learned, how would you structure your business, your organization differently, right? Because obviously, Pete, you're a guy who has actually, so you are you're a tradesman, right? You say you're a plumber, so you know construction, so you know if a contractor is giving you going to smoke up your behind about, you know, deliverables and all of that, right? But somebody who's working in the office who may have $50,000, they want to get into the business because, hey, they're looking at it on YouTube or Facebook,
right,
or their cousin is doing a crowdfunding investment out of New York somewhere, and they made some money. Like, what would you do differently? And this could be for you as well, Al. Like, what would you do differently if, like, you were starting today, but you had an Al or Pete Pocovic talking to you?
Well, you know what it is. I can speak for Al and I. I know you guys, or nobody really wants to hear that, but there's freaking people out there that are fucking crooks. So you gotta, I mean, we know so many people that took people's money and ran off with it, and they came off. But you know what? Before you start investing your hard-earned money, you know what? You can pick anybody off the street, and they'll give you people that, hey, call this person, and you gotta do your research, because you're not gonna go out there and give your hard-earned money to nobody without really knowing who the hell you're dealing with.
Right.
You know, like I'm here 18 years, and I guarantee you can't find anybody out there that can say, hey, Pete got me for a freaking red cent.
Yep.
I never needed to, because I did business a little bit differently anyway, because I built a lot of properties. When I was doing 5-6 properties a month, I wasn't taking people's money for investment. And I'll tell you, I was, but in the beginning, I wasn't taking people's money for investments. What I was doing was, I was buying houses from my main, a shout out to definitely one house at a time. You know, the Baltimore City program, who I was one of the biggest buyers for a while. I'll buy properties from one house at a time. I would renovate them. I would sell them. I would renovate them completely. I put a program tenant in there, sell them to my investors, and then manage it for them.
Right.
So then people like, hey, you know, that was a great freaking thing. I'm making money hand over fist. You know, I got 3-4 properties. I want a few more. I'm like, well, you know what? I can't give you a few more because I don't have the capital to, like, you know, put you in front of somebody else, because I got like a list of investors. I don't know. So they were like, oh, well, can I put up the money up front? You know what I mean? And they did. You know what I mean? They put up the money up front, so I used some of their money. So when we went to closing on, give an example, $100,000 house, they paid $50,000 for the house because they already had $50,000 that they already put into the construction and stuff like that. So the hardest deal to do is the first deal that you do. Once you find a comfort level with somebody you're working with, and it works both ways too, because you deal with some messed up investors, you know, that they want more than they deserve. It's not like that. You know what? It's when you're dealing with people like that you're going to do business with, believe it or not, it's a partnership. You know, even though that he's giving you money to fix his property or whatever it is, it's a partnership, because you guys got to work together, because like when we go give somebody a price to do a job for them, there's stuff that's left out. Stuff always comes up.
Right.
That you can't put in that contract, because there is absolutely no houses that I've ever did that were exactly the same.
Right.
You know, some got less, some got more than to be done. You always got to work together to work it out, you know? So the hardest thing is to find a good group to work with. And by far, with Al, I would recommend to any one of my investors that I kind of gave up now because I'm not doing it on that scale. I'm actually just building my own portfolios, you know, and doing wholesaling. But that was that.
Yeah.
Did I take the long way to that question?
No. It's interesting. So this is about our 5th or 6th episode, but one of the things Al was telling me as he's been kind of mentoring me and saying, hey man, it's people who you trust, and you know, I met you and bought you some money on the street, and you're looking at like, okay, we're good, and we've done some not money, but
Not
checks.
that, right.
Checks.
Checks.
Doing, hey, I bought you a check, okay? I bought you a check, and you know, we've done some wholesale stuff, and obviously you were doing your HVAC business. We've done some stuff on some of the projects we worked on. But he's always going to talk about trustworthy, right? And building folks around you trust. He spoke to what you spoke to, like folks kind of being underhanded, being shady, taking your money. You know, he's talking about, I think one of the first podcasts we had, people wanting to take money, and they see $100,000 on the table, and people don't see that kind of money, and people will do it. People will take your money. People will take advantage of your trust. And and it was funny. We had a guy on a couple weeks ago, and he talked about he never did a contract. He said it was his word. He always did it on a handshake. And so, and I want to talk about that, right? Because Al and I had that, we had to discuss it. So I'm a little different, you know. I'm more. I would think. I don't think I'm a book guy per se, but when Al and I talk, I say, hey man, well, you got a contract, right? Because you know, I heard you just say, hey man, I got my investors and these people I trust and I work with them. But like, how does that, when you get into it? Because I know some people are going to ask, well, because we're in a litigious society, right? Everybody wants to sue everybody, right? Everybody wants to get a lawyer. Everybody wants to, you know, you didn't fulfill this part of the contract. And I know since I've been kind of rolling with Al, like some of the stuff, I say, hey man, why didn't you? He's like, man, I don't do that. This is how I do business, right? And you know, but then there are other people who I would say don't have your moxie, right? And I don't want to just make it about street because it's business, but it's like a sense of character, how you. So if I'm getting in, right, and I'm this book guy, right, you know, and I understand, I'm listening to you from a business perspective,
Right.
But at the same time, I don't know what you know, right? You are an actual contractor, so you can tell if you can look at a contract and say, hey, this guy's bullshit. He's not. He's way behind schedule.
Right.
He's just going to drag the job out so he can get more money out of me, right? You can tell that. But me, I'm working a 9 to 5. You know, I come in, I'm doing this on the side, I'm doing this with my brother or somebody, right? I mean, do I make all these contracts? I mean, what, like, for you, both of you guys can jump on that, because that's interesting, because I watch how even Al works with this guy, like, and I know some of the guys you work with, you trust them.
I know, well, I'm trying to think. The only contract that I probably did in the last 10 years was for a bank that I do work for, and I currently do. Other than that, it was they know who I am. They know that I'm not gonna take your 50,000 when I'm worth 40 times that. You know what I mean, or whatever the case may be. You know, so. It was with me, I literally had people that I did business with that I could just call them and be like, can you wire me 200,000 because I need it for something maybe that I'm doing for them or for a client. I'm not a contract guy. Right. That's why I always went the other route until it started really getting a little bigger than I thought it would be. Doing my own houses, selling to investors, but now people are coming like, oh, well, you don't have any properties for me. Can you do another property that they found back then? So I was doing their properties, and technically, to answer your question, yes. If you're a guy, a 9 to 5 guy, until you get to know who you're dealing with, I would recommend a contract. Yes, 100%. You know, something, you should have a contract in place. Don't just give people your money, but before you give even a contract in place, or before you give anybody a 1 red cent, do your research. Like, it's easy to find people. You go to the city, you can find out through them if people are chasing them. Go to BBB, you know, legit people file legit reports. You can find out who they are. There's, especially with the internet today, you can find out. You can find out damn near when somebody used the bathroom. Never mind who they screwed on, you know, who they screwed on a business deal. So I would definitely do my due diligence before you hook up with somebody that you really just want to break into the business. Or if you got 3 contractors, one contractor gave you a price for $100,000, the other contractor gave you a price for $80,000. The next contractor for the same job gives you a price for $40,000. Don't go with the guy with the $40,000. Exactly. He's the one that's going to run off.
You best
just, you know, just food for thought. Because I don't know that guy, but I probably don't want to know that guy.
Right.
You know.
Seen it a million times.
Yeah.
What would you say about that? I mean,
well, Peter's right on point. He can speak for me, both of us, because like say the deal Peter was talking about. I didn't do one piece of paperwork with Peter. Like, just give me, like Peter do a deal like we do wholesale, like, just give me 5,000. He don't have to, Peter, no, he don't have to do no paperwork with me. I don't have to do no, and somebody called me the other day, they gave me a wholesale deal. I want to do the JC, I'm seeing the JV paperwork, which I don't know what it is. I'm like, man, I'm not signing that, because I never screwed nobody, so I've never had to do a JV agreement. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you don't have to do the deal with me, man. I ain't signing nothing. But if you don't surround yourself with people, trustworthy people, and I preach this all the time, like, if you get in the game, you can eat. Like, I don't have a problem. Sure, if somebody screwed me in the last 20 years, and you come and say, "But I'm working with this dude, John Johns." I don't want to knock nobody named John Johns, but and I already did building with him. He screwed me. I'm like, "Oh no, let me tell you what he did to me. You can make your own decision, but let me tell you what he did to me." Like, I don't have no problem telling people about the people that screwed me over. Right. I mean, they can just come see me or whatever. You know what I mean? But if you don't surround yourself with trustworthy people like Peter and them, or, you know what I'm saying, then you setting yourself up, because there's people looking to make money the easy way out here. Am I right, Pete?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna remember when we had a conversation about one guy that he says don't mess with him.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, David's. You got David's uncle.
No, I ain't know that.
Same person. I'm not gonna blow him up. But he got David's uncle, which I met with him. Same guy got him for a pretty penny.
See, but if he would have came to us and be like, my uncle's gonna work with this guy, I would have told him. You'd have told him too, right? Like,
right.
He did to us.
Well, yeah, I didn't know what that. I mean,
right, but
I didn't know who his uncle was. I didn't know it was his uncle,
right.
And you know.
So how? I mean, so all right. So this is.
Oh, we just getting into it.
Yeah, this is interesting, right?
Yeah,
Because I'm saying, I mean, so we all spent some time a little bit in the streets and kind of know. You know that part of the street, right? You know a guy who's the guy who may just stick a pistol in your face.
And don't pay you.
Right.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Oh, sure.
Those guys get the reputation, and that word carries its reputation on the street, right? But in real estate, I mean, how do you, because if I'm just coming in, right, I don't necessarily know that, because you're thinking this is a legitimate business. It is legitimate business. It's so, what I mean by that is legal, right? Sure. So the question is, like, there's no rule book, right, to saying, okay, who's got the Bible on real estate? Well, actually, you guys have a lot of experience. But if I don't know you guys, right, I'm blessed and privileged to know Al, right, and then Al introduce you to somebody like you, right?
That's how you do it, though.
Yeah,
you gotta ask around.
Okay.
Who do you know I get a wholesale deal from, and do my contracting? You know what I mean? But you gotta trust the person who you asking to give you the good information.
Well, but once you get to the next person, you don't trust him. You speak to him, and he'll give you something different.
Right.
So you got to do your little research if you really. People don't understand how small Baltimore is, how small it is, and there's not a lot of players in Baltimore.
Right.
Meaning, it's not hard to find. I don't even want to be like that asshole, people like me, but it's not hard. There's not a lot of us, or it's not a lot of people that you can really go, because somebody comes to me telling me they're going to invest in the city, I'll throw people in front of the bus. Meaning, not on a store like where I'm at now, but privately, I'll tell somebody, stay away from that person.
Right. Exactly.
And this, and this. I'm not going to tell them to go over there and approach them, on that, but I'll tell people because you don't want to see people get screwed in over here. You know what it is I've seen, I mean, we're going to blow up somebody right now. Do you know Tammy Phelps?
Yeah.
All right, Tammy, do you know Damien?
Yeah.
You know Damien in a wheelchair?
Yeah, I know.
All right, well, I told him to stay the hell away from Tammy Phelps, and she ended up screwing him. She ended up screwing him on a deal, and he ended up losing $30,000. That brother's in a fucking wheelchair.
Yeah,
He got me so mad, and I told him, I walked away because that's where I started all of this, doing the speaking gigs, right? When I saw what they were about, I was like, I gave people that I liked on that bus tour, because I was doing bus tours.
Yeah, they take around to
I
the houses.
did that one bus tour. I gave everybody my number, and I says, contact me direct, because I will have nothing to do with clowns like that.
Right.
You know, trying to get investors to come in on false pretense and promising them the world, and then knowing damn well they couldn't deliver what they were saying and all of that, telling them what they were doing, which they weren't even their properties. I don't do that. I'll get on freaking on them. I'll get on national TV and anywhere else. I don't give a shit. I'll talk about them because those are the freaking crooks that we got to look out for. That's one that I'll name, but I'm not going to name that other one.
Right. No.
But that one,
we know who they are.
That one, yeah, they show their true colors. All you got to do is research it, man.
Right. And it always comes to the light. And Damon a good brother, so I hate to see stuff like that happen to him. So. Well, you just got to be careful, and you got to put people around you that you trust. You got to ask around. I think that's what Pete getting at. Ask around and find out who the people, the players are, and who really do good business, because that's really what it's all about, keeping your name.
Talking about this, so we said trust, and you said do your research. Both of you guys have been doing this for a while, almost 20 years, right? Or 20 plus years. And so, you know, the market's changed, right? Now they're talking about the market's already changed, it's hot. And I know people are calling me about wholesale deals. They're trying to get somebody in. They got an investor that wants to get something in, flip it real quick, rehab it real quick so they get full market. People are trying to learn, like students that are going to come to Al, maybe somebody's going to come to you. What do you think about the trends in the market? Because I think we're so educated sometimes we mess ourselves up because everybody wants to pontificate about what some supposedly smart person said on
we all here. So
on Yahoo Finance or something, and it's like, are you overthinking it? Yeah. Is your property going to be worth your property at the end of the day? It's going to be worth some money. So, when you think about trends in the market, how do you approach your business with that?
This is just my opinion from doing my little reading and stuff like that. There are people that are investing. I've sold a house on Bentalone, just giving you an example, and I approached the person to find out why he bought that rental property, getting $1,350, right, for $155,000, right? Yeah. And I asked him. He says, because of inflation. He says, basically, if you got $100,000 in a bank, your money is going to be worth freaking $90,000. The way inflation's going, might be worth less than that. Yeah. So in other words, he said, listen, I'm buying something, I'm holding on to it, and I'm not making money.
Right.
I might make $50, $100 a month with the tax and everything, right?
Right.
Said, but he goes, I'm hoping if it stabilizes or doesn't stabilize, I can actually cash out on it. Like basically not cash out on that, but sell it at what I paid for it, plus maybe my little, closing costs and everything, and got my money back instead of losing from the inflation and stuff like that. So that made perfect sense to me. What they were saying. So there's a lot of people that are parking their money.
Yeah.
That's why you'll see them buy some ridiculous deals.
Pay too much, you might think they paid too much.
But in reality, when they break it down to you, you'd be like, not even a little bit, because it makes perfect sense.
Right.
From nobody wants to be liquid right now.
Right.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Nobody I know that is in this business, they all got their money somewhere.
Right.
They got their money, and the safest thing, might not be the biggest return the way the market is going now, but the safest is real estate.
Yeah,
the market, the stock market has been in the red the last a week and everything. We don't know, but even if it fluctuates, you just hold on to it a little longer.
Right.
And you'll never lose money. I don't know anybody.
It's hard to lose
who
money if you
lost
know what
money
you're doing.
like that. Right.
If you got the right people around you or you know what
Right.
you're doing, it's hard to lose money.
So even in this market, if I'm getting in, I probably should be building my rental portfolio. It's basically what you're saying. Even if because I can't flip a house and get 25,000, 40,000, but I can probably build my rental
you
portfolio.
can get more than what you put in.
All right.
For sure in Baltimore. Yeah.
My whole business now, I'm doing some flips by default.
Okay.
And I tell you what I mean, is like, I have houses that I finished, I'm about to rent. Well, I just told you, I sold that one over there on Bethel. I was gonna use that as a rental. I'm seeing the numbers have changed since this market is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
So I
crazy.
end up selling them. But in reality, I would have, I was doing it as a rental.
Okay.
Same thing, I got one on Montfort Avenue, 907 Montfort. I was gonna do it as a rental. My realtor tells me I can sell it for 180,
So
190.
you gotta let it go.
So I'm in it for less money, and same thing on the one that I showed you on Mosier Street,
Mosier, okay.
515 Mosier.
Yeah.
It's done.
Oh,
I
that's
was
a two
units,
Yeah.
two, yeah. My realtor tells me I should list it. I said, give me a number. He said, list it for 3.
3.
Yeah.
I think it was a 2 when you showed it to me.
Yeah, no, it was I think 160 for you.
Yeah, I was getting
Yeah.
it from I should have bought
So
it.
I hear you. So
He
that,
said, "I
that's
hear
the
you."
ones.
I'm glad you did.
No, right. Well, me too. The same thing going back to the other one on Dennison Street. I just walked away from it. It was almost done. Where I should have sold it for 160.
Yeah, that's what they go for over there.
Now I got a contract for 210.
On
About to
Dennison?
close on 411 Dennison.
Prices
210.
are crazy.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I mean, I wasn't again. That was 2 years ago when I did it. So I ended up doing all of these other buildings that I'm doing for my
You came back to
portfolio.
it.
Came back. I said, oh wow. I was like, kind of the accident worked out by not getting to it,
Yeah.
and they tell me
You
it's
lost
worth more.
money.
Yeah.
Like the one on Windsor. I did the one on the 2900 block of Windsor. Got it for 22. I sold it right before COVID for 120. Then they going for 217 on that block.
No, actually, we saw a comp
Yeah, but 270.
278.
Yeah,
Pending.
my stomach got
2900 block.
irritated or whatever. But I'm
278
like,
pending. They have a contract.
Oh
Pending.
no,
Crazy.
I hear you. Homewood.
Crazy.
3 on. Remember the
Yeah, I
Homewoods?
know the Homewood. Oh, you finished that?
We sold one of them, 2115. We sold it for 255.
Okay, so that
We
was
got a 2139. We got it listed. I don't know if we got a contract, but listed for 309.
that the one with the loft.
Yeah.
300,000. Who's you
309.
gonna give me that Homewood for 90 or 80?
Yeah. Somewhere
Yeah.
around
Can I
there.
still get?
No, it's over now.
Yeah. I have a question for you, because I know you said you originally were from New York, from the Bronx, and you came to Baltimore because of the numbers, right?
Yes, sir.
Are you currently like investing in any other markets? Would you, or is it just basically Baltimore because of the numbers?
I found 2 other markets that fit this criteria, but when I hit that market, I'll come back and tell people about it.
Okay,
I'm
I
just
got
gonna
you.
go
You gotta
in
heat it
and-
up.
No, well, first I gotta go, make sure the market is proven before I give it to other people to go out and test the market,
Okay,
So, I got 2 other markets. One is in this state, and another one is in Pennsylvania, yes.
Okay. So basically, they're out there. The other markets exist. 'Cause I know a lot of people are, they want to do the. We had a brother on a couple weeks ago. He's into Airbnb. So a lot of people are talking about going to Airbnb.
Actually, I saw that, yeah. I saw that.
And,
podcast, absolutely.
And so there's different ways kind of people spin off into that's long-term rental, right? Or long-term leasing.
There's many ways to skin a cat. It's just,
Yeah.
you gotta follow the numbers, People went to, or whatever, a different market to do Airbnb. I know people that are doing it here that are very successful.
Right.
So it's a matter of, certain things need more time dedicated to it. Other investments, like you invest in Baltimore, you get a good property manager, there's a lot of, you let them run it, you consider that an expense before you even, cut into the deal, so you know exactly what you're making at the end of the day. So you could make basically any kind of move you're looking to make. Just do your research on it. Do your research, or talk to people like Al or myself or you. I mean, we'll give. People don't have to, in order to speak with me or talk to me about investing in the city, I don't have to freaking have a contract where I have to make anything. I'm the type of person that helps so many people make so much money in this city. I just like seeing people succeed.
Exactly.
I took little drug dealers off of corners that work for me still. They got properties rent to own right now, and they got licenses, and some got GEDs, and they got cars and a work vehicle and stuff like that. One of the other reasons why I came here was, one was the market too. I knew I could make a difference in the city, for the city and for the locals,
Yeah.
Well, Pete do so many, man, you've done so many properties, man. You're up to like 7 a month. But speak on a little bit, Pete, about, it's so many elements to this game. Like we was just talking on the break, we had to build our relationships for all the programs. We got 13 subsidized programs, how we build the relationships and got to know the people down there so that we could put the guaranteed programs into our properties. That's one relationship we gotta have. Like you said, we gotta have a relationship with our contractors, with our workers to do the work on the house.
With inspectors.
Yeah.
And then build relationships with inspectors. So once we know what they want, we'll do the work exactly, because as much as all of the work has got to be done to pass inspections, every inspector looks at stuff differently. So you know who your inspector is in that area, and you try to do stuff the way kind of they like it. It's all relatively the same. It's just little things that they're little pet peeves that they don't. So you know who your inspector is in that neighborhood, and you do it to appease them, and it works out. It's nothing that they want that's unheard of. You know what I mean? It's nothing that can't be done. It's just little things. Building relationships. It's building relationships with the city. On getting your permits, and all it is in this whole city is building relationships. You want to go for a loan, you want to go for your third or your fourth loan, what do you need to do? You need to have a relationship with a bank where they push your stuff through, and people who have houses like myself, I'm dealing with a buyer. That buyer's got a relationship. Instead of that sale taking 6 weeks, now it's taking 3.
Exactly.
So it's relationships is everything in this business. No matter how you do it, with your contractor, with a seller, with a buyer, everything. You always make stuff go smoother.
Yeah, relationships gonna make or break you. Talk even down to Home Depot. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So what do you think you spent at Home Depot the last couple of years?
I'm probably averaging, if I really, really had to look at it, because of the COVID and everything, I'm probably averaging about $500,000 a year.
Okay, so I'm around 2, 3.
Right.
So if they see you come to the store daily and you patronizing them and think that's the word, they gonna help you out. Like I went in the other day, a $500 door, they like give me $90, stuff like that.
Yeah.
A light, $64 light, give me $15. So those are relationships that help your bottom line, right, Pete?
All day long.
So,
and if you're buying it for a customer, you almost give them the savings too.
Exactly.
So you're like, oh no, I paid for it cheaper, because when they see you're telling them that, they know you're not holding back on anything else, because that's something I'll save, it's not theirs.
Exactly. So then you could go donate, like we doing some work now on a house with the bishop, and I just went to storage, got a light that costs $200, and we just put it in there for them. So that goes a long way with building relationships with your customers as well. So it's really all about relationships, and it can make or break you, because you can get somewhere with relationships, but if you got a bad name, like we was talking about earlier, Pete, you're not getting anywhere.
Oh well, and you shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
And you really shouldn't.
You're not doing good business.
There's a few people out here. I don't want to say a lot of people out here.
I go for days.
Yeah.
So then you talked about, all the units you have or had and worked on. Would you recommend, so when I'm thinking about getting in, is it better to think about multi-units? Because I know there's some guys out there who preach multi-units, right? You follow different people on Facebook. There's a guy I follow, he's a multi-unit guy. He always talks about multi-units.
Right.
He said, I lived in my first property, and then I was renting out to additional, it was just a regular house, right?
Right.
But it was cut into a duplex or whatever, a triplex. And so he said, hey, I did have a mortgage, but I was renting out the rest of my house. I was living well, and it was really paying for itself. And then I kept buying multi-units. He's a multi-unit guy. He's teaching people how to do that. So is it, because folks get real, I want a multi-unit. I was talking to a guy, in fact, one of our students, he wanted to get a property, and he's all on multi-units now.
Right.
And so I don't know if it's just a trend, or is it just like, what's your thoughts, Pete?
Well, I've had, my biggest multi-unit that I had was 120 units. Multi-units are great, but you ain't coming into, somebody with 50,000 getting into it. That's more of a seasoned investor.
Right.
You don't just, for starters, a lot of people don't understand that banks want you to have the knowledge before they even lend you. So it's not like you're gonna be like, oh, well, you know what, I'm just gonna go buy a 50 unit because I got 50 grand and, the criteria to meet on a commercial loan is a hell of a different, and it's funny because from the knowledge that I have from the loans that I got, your credit score, I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but that, like how big your credit number is, you have to have a higher credit score to get a single family home than you do a commercial property.
Wow.
But you have to have knowledge behind. You would have to have owned something before and all of that. So they're not really looking at your numbers, because I had so many buildings that I had loans on, which brought my score down.
Right.
But they weren't looking at it. They're looking at what's on your score,
Right.
not how score you like how high your score is. So it's a lot different when you look at it. It's not like, oh, I got an 800 score, I can go buy this building. You need experience when you're buying buildings. And I heard you just say 1 and 2 units or 3 units. That's not even considered commercial, but
Right.
I hear you say multifamily, but I'm referencing to like bigger
Yeah.
commercial deals and stuff like that. I refinanced a 24 unit, I refinanced 7 houses to buy a 120 unit. The thing that helped me was my experience on owning multi-units prior to wanting to buy another one. And the way I sold myself on that was because I got the experience. I'm a plumber, I'm an electrician, I'm a roofer, I'm everything under the sun. And we understand, like, these people that are listening and might say, oh, well, you know what, I'm gonna break into this business. I don't have none of that knowledge. That's not the only way around it. But, if somebody wants to turn around and invest money in real estate anywhere, you gotta do a little research. The information is there, you know what I mean? And know what you wanna do before you just go to people like Al, or listen to these podcasts and then, attach to their links and look to see what they're doing. And then you can really get all the information you need to make an educated decision on which route you want to go.
Right. And I tell people all the time, you have to align yourself. If you don't have the knowledge or the experience, but if you can align yourself, like say if you was cool with Pete, and you wanted to get in the game, Pete can vouch for you to the lenders. Like in my students, I go to my lenders if they don't have any experience, because the lender not gonna, a hard money lender really not gonna put as much weight.
Right, of course.
They're not gonna put as much weight on your credit score. They're gonna be like, how much experience you got? And if you don't have any experience, they're gonna lean away from lending you the money. But like, if I go like my students, I'll be like, all right, I'm vouching for them. Go and give them the money. I'll make sure the work is done properly because I have the experience, right? So they're more apt to lend them the money. Or if Pete came in and be like, Melvin wanted borrow the money. He never did a house before, but Pete be like, all right, I'm a voucher. I'll make sure the work is done properly.
All right.
They'll give him the money.
Of course. Well, that's what it is. Absolutely. I've gotten plenty of loans for people who wanted to break into this business. The last one was actually probably like 3 weeks ago. They'll lend because they're like, hey Pete, if he screws up when I take his house, you're gonna finish it for me, right?
Right, exactly.
Pretty much, that's exactly what it is.
Wow.
And that's all these people want is an assurance that they're gonna get paid, so they don't really care who really borrows the money, as long as somebody like us, vouch for them. So money is And if you got money, if you already have money and you want to get into it, if you're invested in that property with your own personal money, I can't see you not ever getting a loan from a hard money lender. If you're looking for like 60 or 70%, they all get in line for that.
Right.
You know, you just got to chase the best rates because, I mean, the going rate, as I know it, I don't even want to put numbers out there, but it's 12 and 2 are the going rate, you know, and then you got people from 17 and 4, you know, they just stick up kids, but they just don't pull a gun out on you, but that's what they do, you know.
If you can't go nowhere else and you had experience and nobody else gonna loan you the money, you got to go to 17 and 4.
Well, you know what, whatever you got to do to break into the business, because you got to start somewhere. Not every deal you have to, never mind do a home run. You don't even have to make a lot of money. Sometimes you have to go do deals just to prove yourself that you can do a next deal. And then those people, all those numbers start dropping, you know, those interest rates and the points start dropping when you prove yourself to people.
Yep.
And it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You know?
You gotta do it.
So you said, I know you said you were kind of scaling back and just building your own portfolio. You said you're doing wholesaling, because we've been talking about wholesaling as a way to for people to get in, right?
Well, those are the people without money, yes.
Right, if you don't have a lot of money, right, that's the way to get in, right?
You still gotta hustle though.
Oh yeah, you gotta have to get up and go.
Absolutely.
We've established that. Guy Mark Owens was on last week. He definitely established that, because he talked about how he and Al met with some wholesaling deals and how he was saying, you know, sometimes he just took somebody to lunch. He said that sometimes, you know, taking somebody to lunch was worth a $20,000 deal. You know, just like I just took somebody to lunch 5 years ago, pick their brain, and you know, next thing you know, he calls me and says, "There's a deal. I'm looking for a unit," and it works out. So, you know, wholesaling is something you're still doing. Obviously, I guess because you have multiple units, you're somebody who has some money now. But how do you scale that from what all the other stuff you're finding out, what doesn't have the experience? What would you advise them about, like?
Well, look at lists. You can find homeowners. You can call them, see if they want to sell. You can be a door knocker. You know, talk to a neighbor about a house that's sitting there that's been vacant for 5 years. You know, and they probably grew up with that person. They'll give you a direct number. You might be able to link it, you know, and try to get it on the contract to sell it. I mean, however you look at it, you gotta hustle.
You gotta hustle.
You gotta hustle. It's a hustle, you know. Like, somebody wants to be a wholesaler, it ain't gonna be a 9-to-5 guy.
Right.
I mean, it could be. I mean, I know people that do that. Right. It's kind of, but you know, you're not going to be able to scale your business. And while you got a 9-to-5 job that you can't get out of, so even answer an email or a phone call in between, you know, your 9 to 5. There's a lot of legwork for it, if you ask me, to get started. But once that happens, or you put people doing your running for you and stuff like that, properties sell themselves if you price them right. And when I say when you price them right, if you price them right when you're buying it from the person, and you price them right when you go to sell it to somebody. A good priced property shouldn't last more than 10 days if you got a buyer's list. Shouldn't last more than 10 days. You know, you could share it with other wholesalers, you could share it with other people, you know. And this one thing that I'm gonna say that I always tell everybody: never ever look into anybody's pockets.
Oh, yeah.
And what I mean by that is, if you sold me a deal for 10 grand, and I'm gonna use him as an example of that deal, which he never did, but he sold me a deal for $250,000. He wanted to make $50,000 on the deal, and this was a side deal. Not many people do it that way anyway, because you got to pay him, you know what I mean, a side deal. And I sold the deal the next day for $415,000.
Right.
He never said to me, "Yo, Pete, I can't believe it, man. You know, you made more than I did. I brought the deal."
No.
In other words, that's what I'm saying. Never look into anybody else's pocket.
Right.
I didn't tell him to charge me $50. I asked him, "How much you want for this?" He said, "I'll take $300."
Right.
If I would have got $1 million for that property, that's none of his business.
Right.
And he shouldn't ever feel any which way, because that's, you know, he got the number he asked me for, you know? So I always tell people, I've seen so many deals go down, and it's even funnier because There was a deal I was involved in. There was so many freaking wholesalers that was involved in this deal.
Yeah.
That I think the owner got the least amount. I'm not even joking. There was so many. This thing went like, went up like the guy wanted like I think it started off as a ridiculous number like $8,000, and the next person got 16, and the next person got like 28. You know what I mean? Like it scaled up. It sold for like 45, and when they saw the way it sold, the person who made the least was the original owner, and it was like comical, you know.
Wow.
So. Never look at that's my big tip to a lot of people if they want to do wholesaling. Always remember, don't worry about what the next man is making.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just worry about what you made,
What you
and
can
you
sell.
know what? You capitalize on that. You use that. You put some of that money into advertising so you get more deals and keep it moving. There's a lot of money to be made out here.
Yes.
If you're broke and you got a car and you can get around, and you can speak a little bit of English, you know, go out there, fucking knock on doors, you know what I mean? Find out houses on decent blocks, you see they were in touch, knock on their neighbor's door, see because if that's there in a decent neighborhood and the house is still there and nobody got their hands on it, apparently I would say, an educated guess, they couldn't get a hold of the owner.
Right. Exactly.
You know? I mean, I got properties a little bit differently because I went around and anywhere where I wanted to be. You send the city an email. This property is a blight property. That's if you want it. That's got nothing to do with wholesale.
Right.
If you want houses in those neighborhoods to come up, you show a lot of interest in that neighborhood, and the city will start the receivership on those things. 6 to 8 months later, they're at an auction. You're gonna have to bid to it. You're gonna have to bid for it, but that's a whole different ball game. That could be taught by him through me or him through him. You know what I mean?
But Melvin know about that.
No, right. I mean, I've written them many emails, and I've gotten every blight property that was interfered in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It took a while. And I took what I just said, 6 to 8 months, but a year to 18 months. Those properties. A lot of times when I got a lot of properties in the neighborhood, I don't care if I get it.
Right.
I just want somebody to fix it.
Improve the neighborhood.
Yeah, just improve the neighborhood, so it improves my value, and that's how
What you got,
all these
yeah.
numbers gone
Yeah.
up. That was what happened to me on Denison.
Yeah,
I got a
that's crazy.
$60,000 increase in less than a year on the value of my property that it was just sitting idle, and it was finished because there was some blight properties around. All of them got fixed from me emailing the city, letting them know, hey, what's going on here. And they end up selling them, people end up fixing them, people walk over there and be like, oh, wow, and brought up a value to the whole neighborhood, you know?
That's key. Well, one thing I want to make everybody know on the podcast, listen, wholesaling is good, but there's risk involved. Like the house I told you today, he won $90,000, let's go ahead and put it under contract. But remember, if you wholesale, you put it under contract, if you don't find a buyer for that property, and remember we talked about keeping our name good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If we don't find a buyer for that property in 30 days, we have to purchase that property, because if we back out of that contract, it's gonna mess our name and our credibility up. So wholesaling is also risky, and people have to understand that, right, Pete?
Well, yeah, I can touch on that because I bought many of properties I didn't want.
Exactly.
You know, I bought many of properties because I told them anytime I personally shake a man's hand or woman that I'm gonna buy this property, I'm buying that property even if I didn't find a buyer.
Yeah, but I guess eventually though you got to a position where you could do that. I guess you could afford to do that. Right?
Well, somebody starting out ain't gonna be able to do that.
Right.
But somebody starting out ain't gonna be able to get many deals after that one.
Right.
So, you know
Yes,
what, don't
sure.
bite off more than you could chew.
Right.
Or JV with somebody who can do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of us out there.
Right.
Not a lot, but 2 of us.
Right.
There's a couple.
No, a few of us. No, there's people out there, but I'm joking, but I'm just saying, if the deal is right, but a lot of these people want to get into this wholesaling, and they go just to get a deal, they promise these people, for a $20,000 house, $20,000 I'll give you 45.
Right.
Because they want that person's signature.
Right.
You just made a huge mistake, because now these people, expecting that from you, and if they know anybody, once you blast that deal out, word gets out when the next person comes and locks that deal up, after that, or that next person might not even be able to lock that property up because the owner's got a bad taste in their mouth, and they just walk away from it, you know, and it becomes even worse, and it's worth even less than it should have been. So
we it's funny, we had a deal like that. Older couple was, you know, kind of, it was their family home. They raised their kids, and they were kind of, you know, moving to a retirement type assisted living facility. And we had another person was working with them, was wholesaling it, and we were going to get it, and it just got bogged down. And I think the couple got a bad taste, right? 'Cause I think what happened was, because we wanted to bring the contractors in to take a look, because we were gonna wholesale it,
right,
but we wanted to be able to give an educated number as to what the rehab was going to cost and all that. So we wanted, and they were kind of like, why you need to have the people come in, you know? And they didn't understand the process. And I think the person who was their confidant was a novice and didn't know how to explain, hey, look, these guys aren't trying to get over on you, you know. But I think in some ways too, it's like, hey, this is our home. We don't want people coming in. It
sentimental,
became,
you know.
And so, you know, we kind of, it's a good. In fact, it's funny. We just moved 2 properties on that same street.
Yeah, same street.
We got two good wholesale deals going. Yeah,
but wholesale can be risky. So we don't want people to think there's no risk involved with wholesale. Like you just gonna go in there and make money, which you can, but it's risk involved with it too.
And I go back to this is something Al told me. Like I gotta run out of here and look at about 3 or 4 properties. You know, it's funny. I laugh because people send me houses and they never looked at them. I say, well, what's it look like? 3 bedrooms?
Yeah.
Is it 1 bathroom?
Yeah, not a clue.
Do you have a room to put an extra bathroom in?
Free money.
Nah, I don't know.
I don't
they
know.
Just they will give me the lockbox code, but then you ask them their price, and they got a ridiculous price. I'm like, how you want $7,500? You ain't even drive to look at the property.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and again, I don't have anything with anybody's price, but I guess it's just. I mean, if you say, hey, you only want $1,500, okay, well maybe you just pushing stuff around when the computer works. But you know, I feel like you should at least take pictures of the house.
Well, go to the house, man.
Yeah,
you call me and you ain't seen the house, and I ask you, do you got HVAC or boiler, and you don't know, but you want a $5,000 finder's fee because somebody sent you the property and you just called me. Oh, that's free money.
Something just happened to me that I won't even answer that wholesaler's number right now. I won't answer his call. He took me to a property. I walked the property. We discussed the deal. He called his partner. He said, okay, they'll take it. It was a Friday. I was hanging out in the office. I'm doing payroll and all of that. And I texted him. I said, yo, where's my contract? Because I had given him my email.
Okay.
He calls me at like 8 o'clock. He says, yo, we made a mistake. We never had that property locked down.
Somebody else got it.
No, they just never had it locked down, period. They're trying to get a hold of the owner. I said, brother, I'm going to tell you something. Lose my number. And I'll tell you why I was like that. Because before I went to look at stuff, I told them, I got a crazy schedule, especially on a Friday. If I'm going to make time to go, I went to, what do you call it? Freaking by Garrison. Liberty Road. I went and saw one of those big goofy ass,
big huge houses.
Yeah, those huge houses.
Yeah.
And then I met him over here on the east in 21205.
Okay.
I told him I'll take this and
there.
all of that, you know, McElderry.
Cross town.
No, sure, across town. I went and met him. I said I'll take it and all of that. He says, oh man, I can't deliver. I was like, I'm done. He trying to call me. I told him, dude, do me a favor, lose my number. You lost like 3 hours of my day.
Exactly.
You know, for questions that I asked you prior to. If you didn't know, I asked you before we went and looked at it.
Locked down.
So that's big because you get people like me who got a tight schedule.
Yeah.
I got no time to run around with you.
Exactly.
If you ain't got a lockdown. If you got a lockdown, I'm fine. I go look at it.
Yeah.
I offered to give him, like, you know, to send a deposit immediately. He's like, you don't have it locked down. I said I was done.
Thank you.
Well, wow, we need to wrap up, man. Pete, thank you, man. It's been awesome.
Oh, so quick.
We will probably, we'll probably have you back at some other time. But certainly tune into the Real Estate Podcast on Ham Radio, and also follow us on all the social media networks: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We also on Instagram, estate_podcast. And Snapchat, we're on Snapchat as well.
And if you need any information, I'm sorry to cut you off. If you need any information on the mentorship program, go to Sky Miles. That's SKYYMYLES LLC. We can answer any question you want on Sky Miles LLC. We got properties on there and everything. Pete, do you want to leave any information if they need to get in touch with you? You just too busy to talk to people.
Nah, listen, if I wasn't too busy to show up here, I mean, if anybody just got questions for me or even to verify Al, you can reach me at, I'm joking. You can reach me at 410-330-8992.
And thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Real Estate Podcast on Handwritten.